Oh, good. I'm good. How you doing?
Better than I was a few weeks back. So,
Oh, cool. I just need to make sure that I can sync so I can. Hang on a second.
Jay,
Yes,
I was
sir.
going to mention, Nuada, who had that sword, he was also known as Ergitlam, which means silver hand or arm. And of course, that's the inspiration. He's the inspiration for Michael Moorcock's Quorum, who's on the Appendix N list. So,
doesn't Nuada actually have a silver arm in these demigods? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
right, cool.
That's why.
Nice.
He lost his arm and it was replaced by with that silver arm. And of course, that's the inspiration for, like I said, Michael Moorcock's Quorum, the Prince with the Silver Hand.
That is cool. Learning a lot tonight.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, Anna.
Yeah, this will be fun. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, Jay, I listened to you guys on episode 50 a little bit to try and touch base and see what kind of stuff you guys have gone over. And
That's a long time ago.
Jason Zavoda is the guest. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. That's how long ago it was, Anna.
Yeah.
This will be good. So, it's Mike. Just in time, Anna. I have a neutral or game side.
Nice.
Finally. It's for the Kickstarter going on. Hit that. I'll play that last. I'll go out of order a little bit.
Yeah. I'm using my Android tablet for Zoom, and then I have my laptop for notes and stuff. But I can use my laptop if need be. But I thought my tablet is better because I have 4G or 5G in case the Wi-Fi doesn't work.
Oh, cool.
So back up on it. So
Well, it's working well.
so far,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, Troy. So if you do, guys, you all hear Anna's voice. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning there in Sweden.
Exactly. Yeah, my dedication for this. I missed one show. I don't want to miss another one.
Yeah, and you won't miss one next week, which is good. So
Yep.
we had a good show last week too. We had a fun one.
Yes, it was a great one. I just watched it a couple of days ago. I need to watch the when you had Eric and James.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yep.
That was good.
See if Eric was any good at co-hosting. But I guess he's so good that I should come back.
Eric was he was good. He was tired though. He looked a little tired because he had a rough weekend. So
Yeah.
I know he's excited about getting the house and all, and that's been taking a lot of his time. But it was good. And we got he gave us an idea for a Greyhawk workshop live stream. So yeah, yep, yeah. So that was
Sounds fun.
yeah, definitely. So okay, we've got plenty of time. Let's check here. Let's see what we got here. Criers are all good. All shout outs are out. There we go. Okay, good. Fuzz, what's up? Here, let me do this just now. So here comes Mike. Surprise. Anna was it's 2 o'clock there, Mike, for Anna. So
Yep. Hello.
Howdy.
we got less.
Hey, bro.
It's gonna be a fun discussion.
Had to get on. Yep.
Fun discussion. You're all about to see a new, but it doesn't say Troller Games on the ad anywhere, I don't think, which is really strange. But it's a Kickstarter for the Armory bid coming up, so I'll show that in a second. And yeah, let's see what everyone else is.
I have to log into chat.
Yeah. Plus, you missed the Debaucherous game Saturday. Oh my God.
Yes, I had to watch that too. I'm so surprised because it's actually warmer here than it was in California.
Really?
Yep, it's been about 80 here for several days.
Wow.
It's like, wow. Yep. It's weird. Everybody's just like, wow, summer is early and it's like, it's crazy hot.
And a new ad, if you can believe it.
Nice.
It looks good too.
What's up, my Morph? Spelled shields wrong, but I won't tell Chuck. What's up, Gabriel Northworth? There we go. There we go. So, let me shout that out. I think I have the link to the Kickstarter right here. Let's see. That should be it.
I'm glad you're coming back in Sweden.
Yeah.
Long overdue.
Yes, it was long overdue. It was like overdue by 2 or 3 years. So yeah.
What's up, Michelle? Yep, Anna is snuck in from joining Les, Mike, and me from Sweden. I should have known because I said I saw your link in on my email. I got email confirmation. You tried linking to Zoom today at some point.
Exactly. It was just so I had the number ready. So yeah.
Glad you got them. Glad you got them, Dale. I hit the wrong button here. Let's go to the ad page. So, duh. 10 seconds. There you go. Welcome, Legends of Lore, utilizing artifacts in Greyhawk. So, there you go. Lots of cards, lots of picks. Yes, it's the classic D&D reprint is already set. So, yeah, there's Fragarak in the lower right. Mike's favorite Wave Wellman Black Razor. Troy, I used one of your picks there, as you can see. Awesome. So, you'll have to excuse me if I hit any more wrong buttons tonight. I'm almost in vacation mode. I got tonight and tomorrow night, and that's it. So, hey, Bill. It does. I got them in the scroller. So, good evening. Look at this. We got 2 surprises. If you didn't know, Les Reno, Invisible Conjurer, Oblivion Seeker, has scheduled to join us. Then his power went out, but then he got back on last second. So we got Les on, and then we got Anna all the way from Sweden in the middle of the night joining us because she can't stay away, which is awesome. And Mike and myself, and we're gonna have a real fun discussion tonight. So.
Yes, indeed.
It's going to be a fun one tonight, utilizing artifacts in Greyhawk. So, Anna, hope you're doing okay.
Yes, definitely.
Great to hear. Les, thanks for coming back. I always love your input on these discussions.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Well, we thank you. And Mike, tell us how you came up with this topic discussion point.
You mean other than the usual desperation? No, I went through our list and I went like to the beginning of the list, so like top 50. So I went all the way back to episode 50 for Legends and Lore and rewatched the episode. I never rewatch episodes if you know me, and because I, in general, just hate listening to myself. And I watched the entire thing, kind of took some notes, and thought, okay, we covered it. We actually kind of covered it. So how can we go at this at a different angle? And so what I'm hoping for is we talk about artifacts, but we don't talk about necessarily what the artifacts do, but how the artifacts play in your campaign or in the world, and maybe more about the drawbacks and means of destruction, those kind of things.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a great idea. So, and that's why I was excited to have Les come in on this one, because I know he digs deep into the real lore, and then that gives you a little idea on what you can do with it in Greyhawk. Les, you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I that's one of the things I've got to say, Mike. That's a brilliant idea.
Okay, I'm glad you're on board.
Absolutely. You lead, I follow, sir. Because I think that too often there's a kind of baked-in familiarity that longtime gamers and even some newcomers who maybe have read a few things have about artifacts. Like, we can become jaded towards them, right? They become like magic. They become like monsters. They're another element of the game, and we're thinking of them in terms of, okay, we have to go and we have to acquire this object, as opposed to some of the mystery that would be attendant upon an artifact, right? Or some of the effects that it might have on players or on the campaign world itself. And also the idea that, and this is pretty big, I'll come back to this, I'm sure, with some of the items. You remember the scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where the 2 government people are talking to Indy and Brody, right?
Yeah.
And there's the whole setup where the audience might know what the Ark of the Covenant is. These 2 government stooges don't. And they get the full demonstration, and you have as it's describing what the use of the Ark is, you have that minor key John Williams piece of music playing, and they flip open the book, and you see the page where the Ark of the Covenant, the Hebrews are using it to wipe out their enemies. Yeah. And you get then the stakes. What will happen if that falls into the wrong hands?
Yeah. That's kind of what we're shooting for here.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one aspect. And the other aspect is, it's in that segment, you'll remember, some say that the Ark was relocated here. Some say it was relocated there. They introduced the idea of the medallion, all this other stuff. So the point is that over the years, it's accumulated its own body of lore within the world, some of which is contradictory.
Yeah, so true.
And that happens, how often does that happen with our own history where, it's supposed to be here, but it might have been there and someone might have taken it somewhere else. So that's the kind of thing that I was hoping to also kind of look at and suggest ways that DMs might flesh it out.
Yep.
I love the point that we're going to attempt to take it, and maybe they're not all Greyhawk either, or they have a flavor that they can put in, because Les told me a couple here that he wants to do that are not, and I'm like, this is perfect, because a couple of them written by Rob Kuntz. So I mean, my gosh, that's perfect, and I think that'll be a neat thing to discuss. And Anna, so I know you got a lot going on out there in Sweden, but so what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on this discussion?
Well, I think I think it's a great one because it's one of these kind of really potent stuff that I think should be part of most campaigns. That are things that are either true artifact or something that are powerful enough to be almost up there. And I think one of the most important aspect is that artifacts are way more than mechanics. They should really have story, and in my opinion, they should have a bit more story than they have mechanics, so to speak. And that I think is important. If you look at the old DMG, it's most of it is just mechanics. And weirdly enough, a lot of these have these kind of fill-in mechanics. You roll on the table or you choose a bunch of stuff, so they are kind of not really tied to the story. And I think it's important that the mechanics are tied to the story, and the story should be even more important than mechanics often.
Yeah, to have, I'm going to say this. I think they tried within the mechanics of the system in the old days to at least give the stuff some backstory, and that'll kick it off here with one. I'll start with this one because I know Les has got some good background on it from the previous discussion, and that is our Fragarak from the Final Answering Swords Blue Box. We just got started, and look, we got Les on, Oblivion Seeker, Invisible Contra, and Anna all the way from Sweden. So hello. Plus we got at least one giveaway. We got a hype train rolling. So we get the hype train up at a certain level. I'll double the giveaway tonight. Good to see everyone. I love, Temple of Elemental Evil, with the exception of the Nodes, is my favorite adventure of all time. I love T1 through 4. And I love the final answer. I love the answering swords, the final word swords. And I just thought they were ultimately powerful. And they try, they said the Thrommel, the living frickin' Thrommel, everyone, had Fragarak. There's no vampire Thrommels in my world, right, Dale?
That didn't take long.
No, it didn't, but it ties right into this one. So, Les, why don't you just talk about that? Some of the discussion on some background on this great artifact.
Sure. What I was thinking about was, and Mike, I went back and Mike, Anna, Jay, I went back and I watched and listened to part of episode 50.
All
right.
Just to see what you guys had touched base on, and I noticed that the idea that comes up in some of the later lore about that the sword was taken from an alien god came into it, and of course, alien gods and alien beings
like
from
Disney.
other worlds are a recurring thing in a lot of the Greyhawk stuff that we'll probably be touching on. But in this case, Mike, you were spot on when you suggested it was the idea of a god from another world. The sword in question belongs to the Irish hero Nuada. But here's the thing about Nuada is that Nuada, a lot of anthropologists and writers believe, was actually an aspect of a god. And of course, that particular line of High Kings, you wind up with this idea that you see also in the movie Excalibur of there being a profound bond between king and land, right? The land and the king are one. And so he was believed to be an aspect of a hunting god, right, or a fishing god. So it's a god who provides for his people. Now, the interesting thing, another interesting thing about him is that he lost an arm, and it was replaced. And this in turn influenced. So this mythic figure from Irish and Welsh folklore who owned this sword, inspired Michael Moorcock's Coram, the Prince with the Silver Hand.
Okay.
Nice.
Which also wound up weirdly inspiring part of the Vecna kind of idea with the hand. But the thing here that's kind of I think particularly relevant would be the idea that you have that kind of association between the High Kings and divinity, and it was stolen from its intended recipient, who was an alien god, right? So that might be the take that the people on Oath have about the High Kings, that because of their position and their relationship to divinity and Nuada's relationship, kind of dual aspect of as hero deity, that it was intended for him, but I want it. It's shiny. It's mine. So it gets taken off to Oath.
So do you just think that Gary, in writing Temple of Elemental Evil, just decided that, I'm going to name it that because it's in lore, to pay ode to that, to the Moorcock? book, or even go beyond that? What do you think?
I think it's probably a combination of things.
Okay.
Moorcock was pretty open about what his inspirations were. If you read most of his introductions refer to it. There's, of course, you have the same figure appearing, I believe, in Deities and Demigods, in fact.
Yep.
So it would have been in the air, and of course, you had at the time also you had all these novels that were adaptations of or inspired by Welsh mythology. So it was something that was in the air in those years, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
So that would be my general idea of at any rate, that'd be one thing. And the cool thing is this also gives you an idea where there's almost a game of telephone that's being played when you're dealing with artifacts, where okay, it was taken from he took it from an alien god. Now that alien god then would actually be a mythic, figure from our world.
Right.
But it becomes distorted so that it was some alien god, like it's you expect Cthulhu or something like that, but in fact it's something that's far more the lineage. Like the idea was he either took it from Duath or from one of the later High Kings, who it was intended for. So yeah, that would be the idea, that when you're dealing with artifacts, one of the neat things you can do is the history gets distorted, and it always gets somewhat slanted, right, by the teller and what the teller's interest in the story is. So yeah,
Right.
anyway, there you go. That would be just my little rant.
And just a little follow up. So is Fragorak the only one that's an artifact, or all the other not? Because Fragorak's outside of the 9 Swords of Answering, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So the others
I
are.
have to agree.
Yeah. So thank you, Chris. So the others are not artifacts. They're lesser artifacts, probably.
Copies.
Copies of Fragorak. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Swords of Answering. There you go. And that answers it. Very cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The Sword of Answering has been answered.
Yes.
Does Fragorak have any drawbacks other than there's probably some alien god out there wanting it back?
That's a good question.
And that's kind of a neat
Hey, Greg.
thing.
So,
mythologically, I don't recall any.
Then
there's one in my
D&D
game.
wise, D&D wise.
There's one in my
D&D
game.
wise, you could certainly introduce one.
Yeah.
And certainly since it's a stolen weapon.
Right.
Whether it was intentional or not, I did a lot of drawing of decks of many things back in the day. And one of Walt's characters actually, is gifted, Fragorak, or the copy of, right, in Temple. You get a Sword of Answering, and drew a card, lose most powerful magic item, right? That one card in the deck, poof, and like that happened multiple times. So it doesn't stay in the hands of mortals very long in Greyhawk. That's what I just said. It's meant to be. So
is this a weapon that should only be in the hands of a fighter, or could any character use it?
I'd say Cavalier, a Paladin, Knight, Fighter, Ranger. Fighter, I don't think it's going to be in the hands of a cleric, unless it's a cleric of a deity who uses. Yeah. What do you think on that, Anna, and Les, on that question? That's a good question.
I actually. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, you finish. I
was going to say I actually have Fragorak in my campaign.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
It's my version of Fragorak, and I it's actually now in the hands of Katarina. Because when Thrummel was declared dead, Katarina received Fragorak as a gift for her saving. She was the bodyguard of Thrummel, and so not of Belvor during the war. So and her when she became a marshal and led the armies, she received it as a gift. So she has it
what
now.
I was kind of driving at then is this a high level item? Like, is this something you could introduce? It's in Temple of Elemental Evil. It's that's an avenue to get it. But would you put that in the hands of a lower level character?
I might, for temporarily, because I always want, and that's another aspect we should discuss more of, the use and the drawback of it. I think artifacts should come with the cost, so to speak, not necessarily mechanically, but it should be. Meaning everyone should be scared of using them for some reason.
Quick aside, this is my favorite artifact book, and where I draw a lot of my thinking on this topic. Okay,
Mhm.
I got it up in
2E
PDF.
Book of
Yep,
Artifacts.
I got it. Got it up here. So
Every
we-
item has some kind of
quirk.
additional information to it
Yeah.
that you don't usually find in the other editions.
That's excellent.
Something
Go for it.
I would also add is that to keep in mind that Fragarac, at least is written, I believe it's described as chaotic good.
Really?
I believe so.
Interesting.
I think that's in Temple of Elemental Evil.
I'll have to check
Yeah,
that.
I think I skipped part of it.
Samwise says
I
yes.
rewrote the story and said it was actually Bahamut that stole the sword, and he reshaped it and made it into his, so to speak. So
See, one of the things that I played with in terms of my traditions, particularly about the Rangers in my version of Greyhawk, is that Fragarac is something that is ideally suited to them. Because again, you have that association of the Welsh and Irish hero deity with a god of fishing and hunting, and the idea of a provider. So the idea would be that it's a weapon ideally suited for a high-level ranger, by inclination, if that makes sense, by nature. It would respond very positively for them. Whereas a paladin, I think it mentions, again, I would have to go back, and I'm sure Sam can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that it caused damage to lawful beings who tried wielding it.
I have it very strictly alignment wise, and yeah, you're correct, Sam. I think there's an EGG Q&A where he says, "Oh, it's a mistake, and it should be LG in there." That's
So,
yeah.
what if you're a latter-day gamer that does not use alignments?
If you're a latter-day gamer, I would say, what are you doing with Greyhawk, man? You need alignment. But in terms of no, in all seriousness, I would say that, again, tie in that idea. Think about the mythology of a god who is associated, or a hero deity who's an aspect of a god who's associated with fishing and hunting, and therefore would be, the land. The land provides for the people, blah blah blah, as well as a warrior who protects his people and who conquers for his people. So think of these things and then put them in the context of your world. Like what kind of character or personality would this weapon be ideally suited for?
And you have the luxury of 9 of these in Greyhawk. All right, it's right in Arcana. Right, there's 9. So if anyone knows the legendary Lord Page in my game, he has, and I signed the name. The names were in there, but not alignment set, and they may be wrong, they may be different. But I have Back Talker as a character neutral. He's got the character neutral one. So we've seen 2 of them in the campaign, but you can have them go at each other. You can have different people with different agendas with holding these swords of answering with different alignments, which I think is really neat. So,
and one other thing I would mention is in the Temple of Elemental Evil adventure, you'll remember that the swords have differing gems. Yeah. And one of the things that would be interesting, I think, and useful might be to go to the section in the DMG, the first edition DMG, that goes into the lore of gems, right? Or to find yourself a book or look online into the lore of gems. And I think that you can then create, for each sword, its own kind of spiritual significance, which would then either mesh with the wielder's personality or clash with the wielder's personality. So that's just another suggestion of mine. Just look at that kind of thing and think about how, gems are supposed to have had mystical properties and things like that, and spiritual associations. There's an entire body of lore. It was a big thing, certainly in the Middle Ages and in the ancient world. So to draw on that and just pull some ideas and associate it with the sword. This is somewhat what the sword. It may not be a sentient sword per se, but it has a personality. The weapon is invested with some sort of spirit or essence, which might be kind of ticked off at you at times.
Yes, or it can be like that mouthy sword in Baldur's Gate 2 that never shut up. You know?
Yeah. Except in this case, it doesn't even have to. It just has to demonstrate. It's non-verbal. I like the idea of a weapon non-verbally communicating to its owner, "You are an f up, and I'm like really frustrated with you right now. Is this what you think I'm for? Do you think I'm a fancy can opener? Like that kind of idea." So anyway.
So tonight, remember, we're going to spend more time on each individual ones that we discuss, as we're going to talk about application and Greyhawk. But Mac has a question. Ed Greenwood's got to have artifacts in Forgotten Realms. There's got to be artifacts, right? I just think that because Mac, it was the first setting, that they were all Greyhawk. I mean, that's why there's so many of them. I think. But I think Dragonlance has the Dragonlance, right? That's an artifact.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Zeb Cook actually answers that question in this.
Oh, okay. What page is that, Mike?
Page 3.
Oh, look at that! Look, we are prepared for an answer.
Artifacts are only found in Greyhawk.
We're rarely ready for a Big Mac question, but this time we are. Page 3.
Yep.
Great one. Here we go. All right. Artifacts are found only in the Greyhawk campaign. It says that right here. The first artifacts did appear in the Greyhawk setting, and most of those are found here, but in the Greyhawk world has no lock on artifacts. Okay, so it's a joke. Yeah. There are also artifacts designed for the Forgotten Realms, Dragonlance, Dark Sun, Spelljammer, Ravenloft, Al-Qadim settings. There you go.
You just got to dig deeper. And actually, this book of artifacts does go out of its way to throw some artifacts into other settings.
Very cool. Why don't you hit us up with one? Because this was your idea. Then we'll go to Les, and we'll go to Hannah.
So, I was looking at a lot of items that are well known, but I've never used. Okay. And so I'll just start with the easiest one, I believe, and that's the Invulnerable Coat of Arm.
And look, Greg Lestrin just put it up.
Yay!
Which I see Asher mentioned.
Yeah, and Asher did too. So, are you looking at it for second edition book? Or are you looking at it from the original?
I'm looking at it from mainly second edition, but I have also referenced 1E.
Okay.
And there's also some. It also came up in a few Living Greyhawk journals too.
Oh, nice.
So.
All right. So, Mike, what's your thoughts?
So my thoughts is it's super OP. Probably no matter what edition you play. This is something that's probably made for a fighter. That it's going to be overpowered. It's going to make, he's going to go from probably already a tough character to a absolutely unkillable character. But the upshot is, I was thinking that it's an item that you could theoretically give out at any level. And then the other thing that was interesting is that it's not really a malevolent item, at least not according to the Book of Artifacts. It's though it could still have the same kind of drawbacks that, say, the Hand of Vecna has, except it's going to make you do good deeds. So if you give this item to a villain, let's say, he's going to probably be fighting the urge to do good deeds.
Wow. Yeah. So, but who is Vertos? Does anyone know? Is that a Greyhawk name?
Vertos.
Yeah, an ancient nation oppressed and impoverished by the wizard Vertos. It only says scant details still remain, so it's probably lost to time. One of those.
Yeah, I think Good,
Les.
I was going to say that's part of that lore. If I'm remembering correctly as well, that the Book of Artifacts mentions that the Living Greyhawk Journal mentions that the location of that Tadon, which is where Arndt is identified as being from, these things are kind of lost to time, and they're a matter of scholarly debate. So it's like built into the thing where there's a degree of uncertainty.
Yeah, it's like, is he, if you want to put it, then in your Greyhawk campaign, is he Iridian? Is he Flan?
He is in those Living Greyhawk articles, and I believe one of the Dragon magazine articles on Heronius. He's described as an Iridian warrior priest, so probably a paladin, right? Who established the worship of Heronius. So again, paladin among the Iridians.
The original Cleric of Heronius then.
or Paladin of Heronius. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yes,
Well, that's not too bad, I guess.
I didn't realize that you can't damage whoever's wearing it unless you roll a natural 20.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's disgusting.
It is seriously OP.
Yeah, it protects fire against fire as a ring of fire resistance, but you're immune to acid, cold, and electrical. You can, if you're a priest, so I can see a specialty priest of Arrhenius, 3 experience levels for 4 days at one time a month.
Now, one of the other things I thought interesting is, all right, how do you introduce this item?
That's a good
And
question.
then first thing I thought of was this item's already in mythology. This is the Golden Fleece.
Yep.
So you just get your group of heroes together, jump on a boat, and go to it. Whatever monsters along the way, right?
So, it says here.
Or you could. I'm sorry.
No,
go on.
Let's go for it. Absolutely.
I was going to say, or who else might have an interest in finding the code?
What's up, Curtis?
The followers of Hextor.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
In order to defile it, or deface it, or at least keep it out of the hands of the Heronians.
And here's how.
So you can set up a nice little race against time kind of. People start having visions. Paladins start having visions of the coat, and the coat being defiled, and they have to answer the call.
Yeah, because I can see word getting out if someone had this, that the forces of evil are going to ally around, because this is so overwhelmingly up. You're right, everyone. Wow. But it's
like
cool.
Just imagine someone in that, a paladin in that, going up against Ayus or anybody or any of the other forces, various evil forces, and it'd be just like opening the can of whoop ass of cliche, right? You'd just be walking through, just plowing down your enemies, or with the opportunity to.
Until someone gets a lucky 1 in 20 shot, and
exactly,
hit and cut your head off, because that's just the way things work. But
now, given it's like a martial item, it's for war, for combat. One of my side ideas on how to use this item is, and it's a good opportunity for a DM to do a temporary, give it to a character temporarily for some kind of time travel flashback scene. Reenact a battle. Battle of Emery Meadows, Battle of 1,000 Banners. Right? Go back as far back as you want.
Look what
the goal is: get that armor and win the battle.
It says right here, it is an artifact that will not unbalance a campaign, for once the quest is fulfilled, the coat disappears, seeking a new wearer.
Yep.
Yeah, just go on to the next hero.
One-shotting it, so you had it in your possession, is a good idea.
Yep, you were blessed by Heronius.
Just don't give out any wish rings at that time, because then they're going to wish to keep it. Yes.
People will be wondering, I'm sure, Jay, we kind of touched on this, but it's another example of those Gygaxian anagrams, the name.
Right.
I believe that it was one of his players was Don Arndt.
Yeah.
And so they, another anagram.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say Ayn Rand.
There you go.
Ayn Rand, yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. Places independent. Great
you
one,
are a
Mike.
Fountainhead of punditry, of puns, sir.
Yeah.
Really good one. Just kick it off for you.
Yeah.
All right, Les, what do we got?
Oh dear. I think sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were kind of going over this earlier.
This.
So
Dark Druids.
Yes, indeed. Sir.
All right. By Rob Kuntz, which I'm using in my game right now, so it's perfect. All right.
So in that module, he introduces not 1, not 2, but 3 new artifacts.
Yes.
As well as some minor objects. But the one I'm going to start with tonight, and I'm going to come back to another one of them because I think that these are awfully nifty, and they're associated again with the Dark Druids. So there's a certain pleasure in looking at these. Is going to be associated with another creature, actually. This would be an artifact that links Tharizdun and the Tarask.
Yep, here we are.
Ooh,
yes.
Yes, the fabulous horn. Or what do you call it? basically spike of the Tarrasque. It's basically something that was taken from the Tarrasque and gifted to the Dark Druids. It's described as a 4-foot long by 1 foot wide spike, yellow golden in color, and apparently taken from some gigantic creature. Again, I'm quoting from the module.
I need to
The
get
Dark
this.
God claims the Tarrasque as his own pet and servant, having an intimate relationship with it dating back to an ancient time before the deity was imprisoned. And the artifact has a rich history. It was given as a gift by the Dark God to Mesrat, the founder and hierophant of the Dark Druid cult. And it has innate powers plus some imparted by the Dark God for specific reasons and or use at specific times.
Yeah.
It is a relic within the aforementioned cult, and definitely brings many quests, both suicidal and otherwise, in attempts by its members to reclaim it.
Please note that Rob says Dark God when he means Tharsden. He just couldn't say Tharsden in the article.
Yeah, and also note that the module is now available in its AD&D form on Three Line Studios website.
PDF down.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
So it's a neat artifact. It ties into the origins of the Dark Druids, who, as Jay and I were discussing, have connections all the way down through Narwhal and everywhere else. And it's a really neat introduction to, I think, this whole mythos. And it's really neat. There's also included within there some lore about the relationship between Tharsden and the Tarrasque, and the idea of the Tarrasque being kind of a harbinger of the end times.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting. I did not, digging deep in, but it's, bring a spell turning. It acts as some crazy stuff here. Note that Rob, when he wrote this, I guess not that long ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, he still has it when it comes to his writing and his deviousness. And the
this
violence he can put in things. Yeah.
And this was, of course, the adventure that I believe it was in its original form back in the day, Jim Ward and some others ran through. And by the way, speaking of, this raises something that Anna and Mike, I think, were touching on, which is, if you were to read this module, it discusses at the beginning, he discusses in the little introduction how there's a trick that he used that he says DMs can use, where the villains were aware of the player characters before the player characters were aware of the villains.
Oh yeah.
And so it's once the player characters are set on this path, they'll discover more about.
Oh, it's like a Destiny thing.
More like these do-gooders are doing things that are inadvertently working against our interests.
Yeah.
So we're going to screw with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then eventually, the situation becomes so dire that the heroes are enlisted to go and stop this threat without realizing that threat A has confronted them before through its agents and proxies, and B, knows them, whereas they don't necessarily know everything about the bad guys.
To tie this in, and Les and I did not collaborate on this, I swear to God, because we just, great minds think alike. So this is actually in my adventure that we are running tomorrow night and last week, and I have here, these lit ones are the menhirs of the Dark Druids, to note their area of that they claim. This, and I don't have, this is supposed to be, and we can talk about this, I don't have one, but it's a statue with illuminated eyes of Zugdmoy. And Les, tell us that connection you have located that I didn't even know about, which is insane.
Yeah, actually, this is part of the lore in my campaign. If you remember the Scarlet Tide adventure in Dragon Magazine, the creature that is responsible for the infection, the contamination of Narwhal's water supply, is something that was a fungal creature, grotesque and malformed, that was trapped underneath Narwhal for a long time, and it was originally a druid of Zugdmoy. who Zugmoy basically gave the druid her fungal blessing. This comes up in the course of both the adventure and in the Demonomicon article about Zugmoy. You can get a little more information to flesh that out if you want in those two pieces. But it was a neat connection because the original Dark Druids, it mentions primarily Therisdun, but then you go through some schismatics where they start serving various demons and daemons and other, fiends, and one of whom will come up a little bit later. But this would be a good example of, how you can tie these artifacts into the wider thing. Perhaps one sect of the Dark Druids has somehow gotten the horn of gotten the Tarrasque item, and the other sect wants it back, and either one of them having it is really bad news, and your adventurers stumble into the middle of a internecine struggle between evil druidic factions.
Yeah, the Black Hats is one sect, and the Umber Eye is the second set.
Yep.
And they do not get along, and that's why That's why I like this even more, is because Rob has written in stuff that is evil's fighting evil too. So that makes it just it's just a wonderful.
It's like they all want kind of a similar thing. They all think humanity and sentient life is bunk, but their approach winds up being radically different because of ideological and religious differences. So it's like they want the same thing, but they can't stand each other, and darn it, we're the ones who can get it right.
Yeah.
And it's great stuff, man.
So this is an item here that was written for Greyhawk, but it's in an adventure that is an ode to Greyhawk because he can't put it in. So just note, anything in this, and it was Greyhawk. Yeah.
And I was going to mention, originally that was one of the it was one of the 1970s adventures that Kuntz ran at the table.
Yeah.
And Jim Ward and company suffered as a result of it.
So it was sitting there for years. Go ahead, Mike.
Is this an item that can be destroyed, or is this just an item that is going to lead to destruction and the players just have to deal with the after effects?
Well, here's the question, and this raises another good point, which is, do artifacts, including evil artifacts, always need to be destroyed, or can they be contained or concealed somewhere? With an item like that, I mean, that would be the thing: is how strong is part of a Tarrasque?
Yeah.
Especially one that's been imbued with magical powers by, something like Therisdun.
So here's a rhetorical trivia question. In 43 years of my campaign of Greyhawk, how many artifacts have I permanently destroyed? 0. Because I think it should be almost impossible, and I think it's always leave another opportunity. They're kind of those things that are timeless, the way I look at artifacts.
The DMGs throughout the years have given the things that you would need to do to destroy an artifact almost make the process of destroying it not worth it, because you're probably going to die in the process of
some of those are extremely hard.
Yeah, it's
the book of artifacts suggests at least 3 different ways for each item.
Yeah, I saw some of them are very incongruous.
Some are stupid easy, and some have nothing to do with anything. Yes. But sometimes the object of the quest can be to destroy the item, as we know. Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Yeah.
At what cost? There is a cost associated there,
If you go down to hunting down Talos, or going to the Hells and smashing it on the gate, you might be opening a bigger can of worms for yourself personally than you might see. If you run a benefit risk analysis, it's like, okay, I really want to go to the Hells right now. I just got through this acquiring this thing.
Great one, Les, to kick it off. So let's see a short notice what Anna has.
Well, I have another one for my campaign, and that is actually mentioned in the Age of Worms. I took the idea from Age of Worms, and that's the phylactery of Dorgotha.
Nice.
Interesting.
So I used that. I twisted it slightly, so it's not identical to the one in Age of Worms, but I took the idea from Age of Worms.
Okay.
And it's and I did it that Dorgotha is near God, or like a being on its way to become powerful enough to be a deity. So it has several phylacteries. There are like pieces of them, and Dragotha uses them differently. It's not an item that gives you, the wearer, a lot of power. It actually, Dragotha sprinkles them out because she can see and hear and notice the world. So she actually sprinkles them out and teases people to pick them up and use them as a way of spreading her, because that's part of her vulnerability, so to speak. So she spreads it around and she gets influence that way, and she can also see and hear. So she's willing to give you some powers just to hold on to it, so to speak, in order for her to be able to subdue you. And it comes with, in my campaign, it comes with one of the nasty stuff is that every time you sleep, Dragotha can come in and basically drag you into her dream plane, so to speak. So she can instill whatever vision she wants on you. And if you fail that save often enough, then you will be dragged in there permanently, so to speak.
Okay,
So
an item that advances the story. I like that.
Yeah. And also the idea always of something having a drawback.
Yes.
You get a benefit from it, but there's a cost. And you might not like the cost. You might not even think about the cost because you really want to use it.
Yep.
So
and also I think sorry.
No, I was going to say, do you know who created the that? And where's it first appear in Age of Worms? Because I was going to pop it up, but that's okay.
Okay.
No need.
No need.
It's okay if we don't have every single one with a reference live. But go ahead, Anna. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, and I also think that it's important in artifacts to stay away from the end of the world scenario, so to speak.
Yes.
The whole world goes up in flames. Yes. It's important to so I want to dial down their powers a bit. So they are powerful, but they're not that powerful. Not in sheer mechanics that it can kind of twist the whole plane into not existing anymore and stuff.
Very good.
I think that's a great point, by the way, Anna. There's another reason that I would want to shy away from it besides the idea of breaking the world. I don't have a problem with the idea of breaking the world so much as I have a problem with the idea that this has become a virtual cliche within fantasy literature. There's always an apocalypse, it's like an apocalypse of the week kind of scenario when you look at some of the published WotC adventures. And that there's a certain tedium that sets in then. If you have an apocalypse, if you're going to introduce something that's apocalyptic, make sure it's very high. You're dealing with very high level player characters, and make sure that this is something that you don't repeat. Because at a certain level, and this ties into, I'm just going to say this. If you look at the box set, the Greyhawk box set, you remember how they had the table where you could roll what levels of characters NPCs were in the city?
Yep.
And everything. I'm really adverse to, if my players want to push their characters higher and higher, I'll go with that. But on the whole, I think that they find it tough enough, much in the same way, regardless of the edition we're playing. I try to make it challenging enough on their moral, intellectual, and physical personal aspects, where at a certain age they just want to retire. They want to go into domains, or running a castle or running a thieves guild. They want to become a shopkeeper, because the further on you push, your life expectancy goes down and you get older. And you have to start trying to sustain that with magic, and that doesn't always work. So I kind of like a cap. And then there's the idea that you do have these characters, you do have your Mordenkainens and your Tensors and other people who push on beyond that and become these almost legendary type figures. And some of the PCs might do that. And that's an ideal quest for someone who's going to become a legend, the end of the world kind of scenario. But doing it where every character winds up, every player character is epic level, so the NPCs that counter them have to be epic level, and there's an apocalypse every week. That stuff just doesn't wash on that level. Leaving aside the matter of cliche, there's also the idea related idea that fatigue sets in. Apocalypse fatigue, if you will.
Yeah.
any rate, this my 2 cents. Sorry, Anna.
Yeah.
No, it's
Just wanna
good.
throw that out
I
there.
was just going to add, but yeah, there are different. You can do the apocalyptic in a kind of different way too. It doesn't need to be the whole world. It can be local, and I
Yeah,
also think that the use of an item should be disruptive in itself, so to speak. And one of the
Yeah.
examples is that when you use the item, that makes the whoever created it's kind of a curse in reverse in a way, that it doesn't affect you, but it makes the other part stronger, so to speak. So the idea that you have to throw it away or stop using it because it just goes like in Dragotha's sense, that the more you use it, the more you drag people into her sphere. So it's kind of it corrupts the whole fabric around it, so to speak. So I think the end of the world calamity is much more interesting if it's not a sudden thing. It's such a subtle thing
gradual.
that you're
Yeah,
halfway there before you realize it happens.
yeah,
That I think is cool. So slow down the tempo of it. Make it so that if the artifact is used over a century, that would be the end of the world, or not the end of the world, but the end of the realm, or in a end of a lineage. Like look at Ividian dying, and Ivid's pact with whoever the devil himself, so to speak, or something that lasts for 666 years or something, or whatever. So make something that is more epic than just the world go boom tomorrow.
yeah.
So to speak.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that what you've raised too is something that's important, which is the stakes. What was it that I read someone say? A child dying is tragic.
Mhm.
Little Nathan down the street dying is personal,
Yeah.
or your own child dying is personal. And what this person meant by that is the stakes are of something that's apocalyptic. You have the abstract idea: a world could end, a city could die, a region could die. But if your players have some connection or investment with that place that you built up over time, right?
Yep.
Again, we'll use the classic example. The hobbits in part are in it because they don't want the Shire to be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very personal set of stakes. Everyone who's part of the Fellowship has something to lose, or someone to lose, or a combination. We too often overlook that, and it comes the idea that you're just going to be big damn heroes because that's what's expected of you. But really, you can play with that role-playing idea, the connection to NPCs.
Yeah.
And the bad guys sometimes strike the players through their loved ones. And that's another way of I think building that kind of tension. I think it's kind of important to make it personal, to make it something that the players actually give a damn about.
Yep. And that should be part of the temptation, meaning they
Yeah,
should be tempted to use it, and that means that they will bring the world closer to whatever bad thing that happens.
Tempted to use it. It's going to
Mhm.
lead right into my next one, Anna.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Perfect. Now,
Perfect. Yep.
this one has only existed for under 20 years, was written by a third-party person who I don't even know, but is so Greyhawk that everyone knows it now, and like, what a great, great, great artifact. And a character in my campaign has it and wears it walking around Altamira because he thinks it's cool. Fiend's Embrace.
Ah,
Mm.
Yeah. Fiend's Embrace.
Fiend's Embrace, which is one of the coolest looking covers ever in Dungeon, with Grazitz and Eggwolf.
Definitely.
Grazitz made it for Eggwolf as a gift, and then if we
Yep.
we come down to the end of the adventure. So we ran Fiend's Embrace
nice.
probably when it first came out, and this is like 2004 or 5.
What
but
level was that?
I think we're talking about 6th through 8th is my guess. Yeah, and it was in Nicole Marsh's, but let me just go here. Oh, low level, 1st through 5th. Oh my gosh! So it was a long time ago.
Is it? Yeah, I think I even ran that adventure. I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, I got lost here. Yeah, it's a good adventure. So so you do find, and let me get back to where Fiend's Embrace was. I went too far. Here it is. Okay, so here it is. You can get Fiend's Embrace, and so Gilthanus Markham, the son of Swain Markham, he kept it. He's a chaotic neutral duelist in town. He doesn't care. He doesn't take it out on the adventures because his adventuring group won't let him take it, because this is one of my long-term 20-year campaign plot arcs. You know, I'm gonna have the screw over everyone in Altamira with us down the road. It's just gonna be the way it is. But yeah, it wears it. It's, how powerful is it? It's not that powerful here, but I imagine I can make up some stuff that makes it even more powerful.
So there's no short-term drawback.
Well, yeah, there is. If you're good, it drains you a level. He's chaotic stupid.
Well, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, so he's chaotic neutral. So
Okay.
the transformation to Magic Cloak has perverted the shard of intelligence, and now the cloak wants a little more than the serve the one it's created for, the Witch Queen Igwolf. So there you go. So Fiend's Embrace. If ever wins a personality conflict with its possessor, allows its owner to retain control of the actions for most part, but infuses them with an obsession with Igwolf. That hasn't happened yet, but you get the idea. So
I like that. An obsession with Igwolf.
Yes.
Yep.
So note that there are good stuff out there, and this is a Greyhawk adventure all the way. This is a Greyhawk written adventure.
Yeah.
And what's it, Dungeon 121? Go for it in your campaign. Put it wherever you want. Play it, run it, have fun with it. Oh, look, I gotta.
So your players not at all worried Igwolf might come back for it?
Yeah. You never know what's going to happen, but it's just
one
of those temptations, and it's like, oh, I'm taking this as my magic pick, and so there you go.
I think
you're good. What, Les?
I think that's one of the great things, actually, about items like that, where they're not as well known too.
Yeah.
Is players have a tendency with their characters to lean into their equipment lists and to lean into, hey, this thing is cool. And I keep thinking, when I was thinking about this last night, I've been discussing over on the Cannon Fire Discord. I've been talking a lot about comics lately, and I was thinking about something you do see reflected in some of the early Marvel movies. The idea that, is it Steve Rogers who's the hero, or is it Captain America with the super serum? Is it Tony Stark who's the hero, or is it the Iron Man suit?
Right.
It's, you have this item, but then it's really your personality. It's actually that makes you the good guy. And again, I think of something like Elric of Melniboné, right, with Stormbringer. It moves from I have to do this to, well, I'm only really killing bad guys. So, or people who are morally subjected to. You can almost see the character. It's like an addict negotiating, right, and trying to rationalize their addiction to using this thing.
Yeah. Good one.
And that's the thing. And when I talked about testing the character, testing the morals and intellectual and physical nature of the character, that's a great example, Jay. I mean, it's a cool item, right?
Right, and they don't use it on adventures ever. The party won't let him, but but he goes to dinner parties with it on.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's on a hook in the closet.
And see, I'd love that's the kind of thing I love, like dangling stuff like that in front of my players.
Right.
And it's like you really could use it in this other situation.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it make your life easier?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There's a lot.
You'd accomplish some good with it. I mean, what are you opposed to doing good and doing good in terms that are very easy for you? Why do you have to be?
Yeah, no.
Is there any benefit to destroying Fiend's Embrace?
Not that I saw in the adventure. It doesn't go into that deep, but I think that that would bring the wrath of Igwolf and maybe Gratz upon the person. See, it doesn't really talk about that.
So if you had a paladin in your group and they're like, nope, you can't keep that, let's destroy it, then all you're doing is going to incur the wrath of Igwolf.
I think so. I think this is
shouldn't be that all that difficult.
This is the perfect chaotic neutral / chaotic stupid character that you give this to, and then you're just going to reel them in and just and it happened. That's part of the fun of the game.
Was that tossing a hand grenade?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the party. And the party's not stupid with it. Like, if you're not bringing that. And so that's part of the agreement there. So I wanted to share that one because I have experience with it, and I thought it's wonderful written adventure, and that's got to be Wayne Reynolds art, right? That's got to be
Yeah.
Wayne. Yeah, it's beautiful.
And Jay, while you have that one up, we should discuss the other artifact that is on that image.
The other artifact, which is on that.
Yes.
And is
There's another
quizzing him now.
Yep.
Are we quizzing all of us?
Yep.
What this?
There's another one. There's
This?
another, yeah, infamous kind of. It hasn't been written about much or any, but it's
What is it,
kind of an
Anna?
obvious.
What?
It's a sword of Grasset's.
Grass.
Oh, is that what that is? There's the sword here.
Yes.
It looks like a
that
giant
sword.
falx or
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was
Or
almost
his
afraid it was going to
Rehander
be
almost. Yeah.
I was afraid it was going to be the cod piece of Grust.
Yeah.
So-
Oh,
Where-
I'm sure that is probably even more of an artifact. So,
Where?
yeah.
Yeah, you like that, Jeff?
It's-
Yeah. Okay, stupid.
Yeah, it's not detailed as far as I know. I've been looking at it for details on it, but it's such
Isn't it like
an iconic.
poison?
Yeah, it's. I think so. I think in third edition it had a lot of like poison and various effects, but I also think it's kind of cool. So when I depicted it back when I used Grast in an earlier campaign, it actually stole your soul, so to speak. It
Nice.
didn't cut through your body; it cut through your soul.
So almost like
So
what's his name? Elric's character.
yeah, Stormbringer.
Yeah.
Stormbringer.
Yeah. So if
Oh,
it crits, you will never be able to be resurrected or anything. So to
Yeah.
speak. So it makes sure. Yeah, it kills you beyond
Laser.
this world, so to speak. It kills you beyond the next one and all of them, so to speak. So you're gone from the multiverse.
Phew. That's rough. So I wanted to bring
Yeah.
that one up. Back to the top, Mike. You're up.
All right, I'm going to try something
Uh-oh.
totally out of my league.
Okay.
The kind of the track we're on here now is something more utility, I'm thinking. I'm going to take a shot here and mentioned the apparatus of Qualish.
There we go. Look, we
Yes.
didn't have
There's
this.
not
So-
many
well,
underwater items out there.
There we go.
Stuff that you need for underwater. And what I started diving into here is that the apparatus, depending on what edition you're coming from, is either a wondrous item or it's a legendary item. I don't think it's actually ever been qualified as a full artifact, but I'm seeing that this is quite common. Like the Staff of the Magi could be a regular powerful staff, but I've also seen it as a artifact. Book of Wild Darkness, Sphere of Annihilation. There's some of these items that are just kind of in a gray area on artifacts, at least for game statistical purposes. Now, as where I'm getting at with the apparatus is that it's a named item. Lots of times not always, but lots of times your named items should have that artifact quality to it, especially if it's unique. I don't know if the apparatus is unique or not. I think I know our good friend Troy that you put the Arm of Qualish up there on. He probably has some more background than I know.
Well, we have actually some pictures.
Yes.
And so we have, and that's Qualish in his workshop. These are by Troy from his artist. All right, these are not AI, everyone. This is all original art. It's wonderful. So, and then here's a picture of Qualish himself. So, really cool.
So
Thank you for sharing that stuff,
utility of it is obviously it opens you up to underwater exploration. It is kind of in the same league as, say, the Mighty Servant of Luco. It's transportation. And it's not necessarily even anything with combat. And I think that it's also, like I said, many editions, but for your own campaign, it might even be customizable. Because I think
Hey, Celtic.
it's like in some things I've read, it's a small, like 2-seater, but like if you want to get your whole party involved, right? Shouldn't you need an apparatus that fits all, so I think you could scale it up is what I'm getting at. this could be something greater than
So,
what's necessarily
Troy, give me an okay, because the question from BB was about background on Qualish. Can I share the Legend of Qualish? But I want your permission to do that before I do it on this page, so you can discuss it. Yeah, let me know. If you're not comfortable, it's okay. This is not published yet. I got a head copy. Not yet. Okay.
Right.
All right. So BB, it will be out. The background on it will be out, and all. This is a community post, and it'll be open to everyone. So just note, I have an advanced copy of it. But
Yeah.
it's really.
And as a playtester, as a playtester, I got to say it's a really cool thing.
Oh, you're playtesting it too. That's great.
I believe so. I believe that was the one we playtested, and I've got to say that Troy's just doing some remarkably good stuff.
Yes, new Greyhawk lore, adding into it. So just note, another thing that's great about the show tonight is we're sharing a lot of stuff that's recent or new for everyone. So it's not the same old, hand and eye Vecna. You know what I mean? And that stuff's cool, but new stuff's cool too. Yep. It's Qualish and Gnome too. I don't think so from that picture. I know that Patrick. That's a nice joke, Patrick. Everyone's a gnome.
Not even relevant.
Uh,
Anyhow, for the item, what I'm getting at is that this should be an artifact. This should be something that, maybe the drawbacks of some kind of fail safes that Qualish puts in. You could really make this your own. Never mind what's already in the published canon for it.
Right.
And this actually raised another thing that I kind of wanted to address.
Go for it.
And it came up the last time you guys covered artifacts. And I know this can be a bit contentious, so I'm going to carefully frame how I'm putting this. There are certain items in, Luco comes to mind. The machine of, Loam comes to mind.
Mighty
Loam the Mad.
Yeah, I have one of those.
And with these things, you notice that there's a kind of technological component. These are things that you can see. They're not the kind of magitech that you would find in, say, the kind of Monty Cook iteration of that around the 3rd edition period. So they're not like some grand thing, but they're clearly a combination. There's an aspect of technology. There's an aspect of magic to them, but they're rare. They're unique items. And one of the things that I like to play with in my campaign is the idea that, there's that great Arthur C. Clarke quotation about how at a certain level, technology can be indistinguishable from magic at certain levels. And I would say the reverse can be true too, or the two can interplay with each other. So when you're dealing with these ancient empires or these ancient conquerors and stuff, you have the potential to have these are the Sul Mages of Power could do remarkable things, including bringing on an actual apocalypse. There are types of magic that could blight entire lands, obviously you had portal magic and people going to other worlds and other planes. And with that in mind, it doesn't surprise me. In our own world, historically you had, like, during the medieval period, you had these great inventions that you can find cataloged, and some recreations of them on display, where the Arabs had taken some Greek designs and improved on them. So you had a water-driven elephant, right, that could move its trunk and do all kinds of things. You had some remarkable sewage stuff. So my point is, don't make it so you can make it so that it's not ray guns on every corner or giant mecha running around, but you do have these weird survivals of ancient times that would befuddle the minds of current people because there's lost knowledge.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
There's one of the other examples I was thinking of was archaeology as we think of it. Actually, the father of archaeology was, I believe, Cyriac, who was working in Italy in the Renaissance. And his big thing was he would travel around and take copious notes on stuff that he found in Greece and stuff that he found among the ruins of Rome and so forth. And he was interested in them. But then you had another strain that was going on that had been in existence since the Middle Ages, where it took the stuff of the classical era and it interpreted them in terms of the contemporary culture and the contemporary religion, right? So you have these kind of competing strains. One of them's kind of interested in the knowledge, what were these people like? And the other is taking the stuff that survived and interpreting it in terms of the present day. And you can do something, you can play with that kind of idea. There are groups like the Silent Ones who obviously have an interest in surviving Soul items. You have other groups, Seekers and so on. Some groups might have more mercenary interests, right? Whereas other groups might say it belongs in a museum or it belongs hidden away in our tower, as the case may be. So yeah, that's just a thought. Don't fret too much, provided that you're not doing it in such a way that it renders the world unstable. But on the other hand, don't fret so much about your, this doesn't seem strictly medieval, because again, the pulp sources, some of the sources in Appendix N are science fiction, or they overlap between fantasy and science fiction, right?
Yeah.
And I don't, verisimilitude doesn't necessarily mean realism. It means you can actually feel and experience the veracity or the truth of that world. And the truth of that world is there were a bunch of crazy powerful sorcerers and sorcerer priests and other types running around, and empires that apparently could do all kinds of tremendous things with magic, and they're gone, and a lot of their wisdom is lost. And they probably left more than a few items lying around, or in the case of at least one of those artifacts, someone left it for them. There was an alien some otherworldly being left a machine, and an Iridian warlord finds it and is like, "Hey, cool, I can use this."
Merlin has got a technology. There's little tidbits here and there. There are portals to Metamorphosis Alpha, Starship Warden, Boot Hill, and Greyhawk. So yeah,
but I'm saying that you don't have to go crazy with it, and just remember, even with Barrier Peaks, right? Yeah. The weapons ran out of charges.
Yeah, and they were useless.
In the same way that the cool drow items that you'd bring up from the Underdark would turn to ash or whatever when sunlight hit them.
Good point, Les.
So,
yep, good one. Excellent, Mike.
Yeah, that was great.
Les, what do you got?
That's well, I'm going to go back away from things for a while, and I'm going to go with one of the classics.
Okay.
The Hand and Eye of Vecna.
Okay, let me go to Dungeon Master's Guide here. They're on the same page. That's why I went there.
And rather than go into again what it is, I'm going to bring up something that I mentioned to Jay. I know it got brought up last time, and I mentioned it a few times because I find it freaking cool. In Eldritch Wizardry, which is where the eye made its first appearance, you get a kind of cool description of the eye, which is as follows. The eye may or may not have originally belonged to Vecna, as it is said to glitter much in the same manner as the eye of a feline. Now, what's interesting about that, what's cool about that, it has this kind of cool, kind of creepy resonance with folklore and legend. Witches, according to at least some sources, kept feline familiars because of their ability to see in the dark, and so on the darkest nights in winter, these witches could carry out their evil deeds. Right, the darkness is no hindrance to their evil. And I also like to play with in the Blemu Hills. There is a kind of legend about an oversized cat with one eye that was seen ages ago wandering around and up to mischief. Now, what the players don't know is that is actually the Gnome Lord who found the eye. He basically, when it was taking possession of him, he tried fighting it off, and in the night it would drive him out to do these things and perform all kinds of mischief. So they saw the glittering eye. Some people who live there saw the glittering eye, and he was covered in invisibility, but they just see but somehow the eye stood out, right? It was fighting him. There was an internal struggle going on, and so there's this legend of the cat of the Blemus, which is basically no one realizes it, but it was actually the Gnome Lord at one point running amok and fighting with himself. And there are rumors that the new Gnome Lord kept having horrible dreams of this cat. But in fact, it wasn't a cat. It wasn't a cat's eye. It was the eye of Vecna doing this.
So an artifact that is under another name or no one knows what it is you can hide its true powers and stuff, and it can only show certain things, limited, and that's what's cool about it. And you're like, oh my god, yeah, and that's neat, yeah, definitely.
Giant Swamp. That was actually that story of the cat is my elaboration on the Gnome Lord story. It's something I added in the campaign for my characters to hear when they periodically hear creepy stories and potential leads. I like to, with artifacts and relics, as I said, I like to flesh them out so that there are contradictory tales and there are old folk traditions that arose from things, but they've been forgotten, right? Or they've been distorted over the centuries. And you get a lot of that with Vecna. If you go through Eldritch Wizardry and then compare it to its account to Vecna Lives, and then compare elements of that to the Revenant comic, and then compare that to some of the undead books, Liber Mortis and so forth, you wind up, and even like what WotC recently did with Vecna, you wind up with all these little minor these contradictions.
A lot of
but I see that as a feature rather than a bug.
Yeah.
I mean, Vecna would love nothing better than to continue spreading lies, right? And to manipulate his followers. Undoubtedly don't even agree, depending on what cult they belong to. They probably don't even agree amongst themselves as to the details of his history. And so I play that up, and then I also have little things where there's folklore about people who have possessed the eye and spooky things that happened around the time that the eye hand took possession of them. And they're unaccounted for little folk tales or legends. And the players may never realize unless they do some exploring. And find it, or they may not. It may just be a creepy story that convinces them not to go to certain parts of the Blemu at night because a cat might attack you.
The good thing is having those stories as even a little sidebar, a notation, a rumor adds to the Greyhawk flavor, and that's the great thing about it. Whether it's an integral part of your game or it's just something gets mentioned. Oh, this happened, as a wives' tale or something, adds into your flavor. Yep, absolutely. The Vecna material changes significantly from Vecna Lives Rookery. It does.
Exactly, Sam. It's I mean, Vecna is, and that's the thing is that in my campaign at least, it's all true to the extent that you can't tell which parts of it are true.
Yeah.
And that might be by design.
No, it's definitely I kind of like the what's the word? Not amorphous, but in the ether, you're not sure of. Never give out all powers of an artifact. Period. But,
yeah,
but you're not.
And
sure.
Never give away everything that a bad guy like Vecna can do or is.
Yep, true. Les, excellent background on Vecna. Absolutely. Anna, what do we got?
And now I can't resist when Les brought up the Iron Hand of Vecna. We have to talk about the other one, the follow-up one that is mentioned, and that's the Sword of Kaz.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and not only from it, but I think another important aspect is that if you're going to go up against Vecna and the power he brings and how powerful he is, the Sword of Kaz can be the kind of the key in order to fight him, so to speak. It can give the characters some real powers against him. But the drawback with it is that it might reveal your location. So Vecna might always be aware of the meaning. Yeah. So meaning artifacts have such an impact of the world around them, so you can't hide them. that most of them, a lot of the artifacts, they might be so powerful that anyone who can detect them, so to speak, can do it. So that means that as long as you wear it or use it, then whoever is after it might be able to detect it. So if you use the Sword of Chaos, it might be give you a lot of bonuses on fighting Vecna, but it also means that Vecna will probably come and fight you. So you invite Vecna early, so to speak. So the characters might not be aware of stuff. So you can twist the instead of having the Sword of Chaos having a curse that comes and back gives you a minus or something. The curse is simply that Vecna will come and strike at you at Vecna's when Vecna sees his most opportune, and might also know your plans and can read your thoughts and stuff like that. So there might be a lot of you can have hidden drawbacks like that I can think you can play with that are fun in your campaign.
Yeah, and this is pretty well written up. Zeb's Sword of Chaos here with its abilities and its curse. Yeah, all powers fail when it's brought within 60 foot of Vecna. Oh, your friends are screwed. You're on your own.
That's the one of the most interesting. An evil artifact might promise a lot of things, but doesn't deliver once you're there, so to speak, because it might want you to fail. And then you can also. I had one of my. I had an evil sword a long time ago in my campaign that it gave you a lot of pluses and bonuses, but you had to kill a good creature before you got it. Then it only lasted for a bit. It lasted as many days as the level of the critter you killed, so to speak. So you need to kill powerful good beings. Then you got a lot of bonuses for a long time. So the sword was hungry, so to speak.
What's the
Suppose if the sword couldn't affect the hand and eye of Vecna, it could still at least mess with his cults. It's gonna still try to affect things, even if it can't finish the deal.
Yeah, it might be able to detect all the cultists and give you a lot of bonuses on them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it says in here. Yeah, to lead into the cult of Vecna. Pianist whose hand gets hand of murder. It takes over his personality. That's a regular trope. Placing someone else's hand.
That's the original. Is this old novel, French novel, I believe, called The Hands of Orlok, and it was made into a great movie with Peter Lorre and several others. But yeah, in the movie, the pianist loses his hand, and it's replaced by a murderer. And he's replaced with a murderer's hand. The doctor gives him a new hand, and it slowly starts taking over his personality. And yeah, that's where the trope kind of began. As far as I know.
Yeah.
Jay, check out the Means of Destruction and Book of Artifacts for these sort of costs. I think all of them are equally difficult.
Yeah, that was funny. Oh, Malden is lurking? Wow, Dennis is hiding out here somewhere. Yeah, Dennis is on.
Dennis couldn't resist the artifact.
There you go. Good to see you. Yeah, Death of Vecna, hammered into a plowshare with the cudgel of St. Cuthbert. That's probably the easiest one. And all memory of cost must be wiped from Earth. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's not happening.
Who's that?
You've been outed.
Never heard of him.
So wait, so while Dennis is visible, while you're visible here, October 6th through the 8th, Sunday night, October 8th, the return of Greyhawk Ask the Experts for Virtual GradCon. Dennis, there you go. October 8th, Sunday night, 7 p.m. EDT. So there you go. Lucky he outed him. That was awesome. So just note that date there, Dennis. Eric Moon has already confirmed. All right. I'm going to go to one of my favorite adventures of all time, which I think the player characters could actually utilize. If I can remember where it was. Showcath.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, it's one of the greatest pictures of all time ever made. There it is. Daoud's Wondrous Lanthorn, right? So,
yes, indeed.
It was a cool item that appears in this adventure. And you need special. You didn't have all the lenses that went with it, which means it was incomplete. And with that, I was like, wow. So this could be an adventure actually to future adventures to recover these. Now, someone also did this one up. This is a color picture version that I found. I think that's from 3rd edition, from maybe from a dungeon or dragon. Yeah, and there is. That's all good, Dennis. Don't worry about it, man. It's good to see you with Drelsna here and the Lanthorn here, showing it, and so I love these old adventures. Everyone loves White Plume Mountain. Someone may talk about those. You get these items that are just so cool that you're like, oh man, where does it go? And it's the power of this. It could be pretty powerful, but it's not end of the world powerful, right?
Is that meant to be an item for a specific class? I know nothing about this item now that I think about it.
No, I think wizards are the ones that are. I think it's in here. Hold on, let me find it.
Would get the most benefited from it.
Yeah, I think so. And a demonic kind of wiggle is in here too. Here it is. So it's an artifact. It says it right here. So Dave's Wonders and then form is wrought from the finest yellow gold. The flame cannot be extinguished by any known means, so it's always lit. And here's the fuel for it. Crushed diamonds were 10,000, so it's not cheap to have. And then 7 gem lenses were made for it. You get 4 of those, so 3 are missing. And then here's your mix of what kind of spells you can actually cast out of it with the lenses. And that's what I thought was cool. So, just you could, and the fuel cost it would take in that would burn for casting those spells. Yeah. So, just a neat concept item. And I'm not sure if there's more detail on it. Yeah. Lanthorn is. Yep, you're absolutely correct on that. It is a trap. You're dead on right about that. But you can also, it says here, you can actually make the missing lenses and stuff with the proper spells. So, but it's in the course of a campaign. It's in the course of an end of a great adventure, and that's just one of the reasons why. Go up there. You got this in Farrisden. Carlos's 2 favorite adventures of all time, and once again, you've all heard 100 times how I got to figure out a way to bring Drelsna back, as Anna said. Just bring her back. I'm like, oh, that's just, yeah. So yeah, we'll see. But that's mine. David's Wondrous Lanthorn, another cool one. But I think an item that will not be. It's powerful, but it's not like the Invulnerable Coat of Arms, right? It's
unique.
It's unique, yeah.
And the drawback is the pieces, and yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So our group, when they ran it, didn't keep it either, Sam. They gave it over. At the time, we knew nothing about the Seekers, but that's probably where it went in our game. The Order of Yuluk took it and did something with it and took it out of the game. So, Drelsna and Thrommel together again. That's funny. BB, you got me on that one.
Here's a campaign theory question.
Sure.
If you're running a D&D game where you don't want to dole out a lot of magic items, is having the magic items you do give out that have them be more lesser artifact level, like something like the Lanthorn or Fiend's Embrace, are these the kind of items that then could make up for not, everyone has Ring of Protection, everyone has Boots of Speed, that kind of superfluous magic.
Well, and we should have a discussion on that too. I don't know if we did, but
or is that a gammon?
Well, I mean, naming weapons with powers and capes with powers and bracers with powers to make them unique is a huge thing. I think it should be done, but I think it would be we could do that in Legends of Lore and make them all Greyhawk based. I have no problem with that. What do you guys think, Les and I think on that? Like, creating unique power items, which is a step below artifacts.
Because you could have the Lanthorn, you get Fiend's Embrace, like one party could have both of them items, and I don't think they're going to be it's an overpowered group.
Yeah.
only when you then suddenly have the sort of cause and effect there or something.
Well,
Then you're
yeah,
like,
or the Codex of
yeah,
Infinite Planes.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing is, I think that there are certain. We're talking about artifacts, but that covers a multitude of sins, if you will. Excuse me. The idea would be, you have on the one end you've got like Alyssa's Nightingale, and you've got Dow's Lantern, and you've got these kinds of things where you can tell. I think you can have them have. It allows for a lot of role playing as well as just the idea of the character's relationship to the item and how it affects other relationships. But then you have on the other end of the spectrum, you've got the more apocalyptic or potentially damaging kind of artifacts.
Yeah.
So you have a wide range. I mean, there's actually something I might bring up later that kind of falls into the local apocalypse category that Anna brought up.
Cool.
But yeah, that's the thing is, and I agree with you, Jay. It's a magnificent item. I always think, when I think of Dow's Lantern, I think of like the old E. E. Smith Lensman novels, and I think of like Green Lantern and stuff like that, because it's a cool kind of idea that you have this lantern, and the lantern itself can change things. But in this case, it's got a curse with it too, right?
Yeah.
And I think they later expanded the lore in some Dragon magazine articles and whatnot to suggest that Dowd was a priest of Istus.
Oh, wow.
And that this was inside like this kind of temple or something. I know the Living Greyhawk material kind of elaborated on that too. But the idea is that this was locked away, and then Igwil stole or somehow otherwise procured it, and then left it with her daughter's daughter. So yeah. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, I guess.
Just another one that's in an actual adventure that's attainable by characters, and that's
Yeah.
that I think a lot of early adventures have those. Especially the White Plume Mountain, right? Has a lot of really cool ones. And Mountain brings up a good point. Greyhawk Adventures has a lot of items that are uniquely named, but they're not artifacts. They all have regular, on the regular power level of abilities. And that was another thing that Greyhawk has so many of those named magic items, which makes it cool. So, yeah. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah. So earlier we were talking about let's brought up Captain America and Iron Man and whatnot. That actually brings me to an item that I've never used before. I think you have talked about it previously, Jay, and I want to talk about the Ring of Gax.
Yes.
Nice.
So here
Baldur's
you
Gate.
have a artifact, multiple powers. You wear the ring. There's lots of magic rings in D&D. Yeah, some might even have more than one power. This has 9, I believe, and it will make whatever. I guess you could stumble upon it at first level. You can stumble upon it at 20th level, depending on your game. But it would make you an instant superhero, depending on what the powers are.
It's all random.
Yeah, it's all random.
Except for 2 powers: Stone Skin, Invisibility.
Okay, well, there you go. That superhero, right? If you're invisible and invulnerable all the time, it might be a good counterpoint to the invulnerable coat. You could have this superhero D&D game. But with the ring, what I was thinking as I was reading up on it is it gave me this Infinity Gauntlet vibe.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I'm like,
Definitely.
oh, hey, this is an item that, all of a sudden you could have like the whole game world come down on you to acquire it. And really the ultimate goal is just like get it off our planet, kind of thing.
This item appears in Baldur's Gate, the computer game back in the day. And look, here we have the powers for it. Ring of Gax. +2 to armor class saves, 10% bonus to magic resistance, immunity, disease, and poison. You regenerate 1 hit point every 3 seconds. Invisibility once per day. Improved haste 3 times per day. Improved haste, you don't age. So, yeah, there you go. So it does exist in a computer game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and assuming that would work for any class and whatnot, that would make you a veritable superhero.
Does the Ring of Gax come from an alien spelljammer world? Let's see.
Spelljammer?
Mountains of Storms, a luckless fighter named Krendel. It doesn't say where it's from here.
I think that could go if you run Spelljammer. I think it's a great item to throw out for
Yeah,
Spelljammer because then you could explore its origins. Same with Planescape. It might just be having an outer planar origin. It's just kind of like with our Fragrank thing. It's an alien item.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah, I
like
believe.
it's going to turn you into a monster of some sort.
In Book of Artifacts,
Yeah.
the drawback, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think the stone itself doesn't it mention that it can't be identified,
Right.
like what the nature of the stone is. It's otherworldly, or at least
Yeah.
not of this world.
The ring must be taken by hand to the center of the sun. Well, I guess you're dead
Yep.
if you do that.
There you go.
Return it to the alien culture who crafted it. The
Ah,
creature that
and
created the
that's
ring must be found and the ring returned to them.
there you go. And that's another way that it reminded me of the Infinity Gauntlet is the item itself is going to foil you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you could be be all end all, and ultimately you're going to screw up.
It's alien, but it's also outside of time. That is. So this could be outside of time as well. Alien and outside of time. So yeah, it's one of those. If you run an adventure to get rid of this, that's really saying something. So
yeah, and also actually the way that this works with these references, again, that was something I wanted to mention. We were talking about these earth changing or oath changing artifacts and items of otherworldly origin. Now, one of the things that's always occurred to me, and you get this a lot in some of Kuntz's other adventures, would be the idea of portals and pocket universes and pocket dimensions. You get that to some extent in some of Gygax's stuff as well.
And Menser too. Menser.
Yeah,
stuff.
and Menser. But the idea that I like to run with is that, say that you're a powerful, super powerful wizard, and you have this kind of item, and you're just paranoid about your messed up children getting their hands on it, or some God forbid some idiot adventurer raiding your home and getting it. So you have a mirror or a painting or something that opens on a pocket universe or a fading land that in turn contains a portal to another fading land, and that's where you stash the thing. It's like a cosmic safe. And the adventurer is to acquire the item if they know it's there, if they know that by reputation it's somewhere around there or so forth, have to actually kind of do a little bit of like microcosm jumping, if that makes sense. You're going from this universe to a demi-universe to a quasi-demi-universe, and so on.
Robert Asper
these
books,
little worlds within worlds.
The D hopper, right? They had the dimension hopper thing, the tube thing, and they just click, and you dimension hopped. Yeah. The myth
and
books.
you can always in those books you can find inspiration. You can find a lot of inspiration in some of Zelazny, like Roadworks, and in World of Tears by Piers Anthony. You can find all kinds of cool reference points for that. And the idea, again, that these are super powerful. A lot of the people who created these or inherited them or took them. Maybe they stole some of these items from them. You're going to have defense systems. And you're going to be very cautious about who can get their hands on it. You don't want your apprentice, you don't want the sorcerer's apprentice situation where Mickey gets his hands on the Ring of Gax. So, yeah.
Yeah, because he's going to be turned into something in 48 hours after he has it because he ain't taking it off. Yeah. Cool one, Mike. Good one to bring up. Les, are we going back to Dark Druids?
We are indeed.
Okay.
And for this, we are looking at, this will be on page, let me double check here.
I have it right here, all the page numbers for everything.
29.
29. Very cool.
Yes, the Claw of Anthraxis.
Oh, yes. The Oino demon.
It appears to be the claw of a Type 1 demon, a Vrock. Its shaft is part leg and part plumage of various colored feathers. There are a total of 8 feathers present, 2 of each color: red, blue, gray, black. It is given as a prize by Anthraxis to his most valuable mortal servant. If the servant dies, it teleports back to Anthraxis. It cannot be duplicated. It is a personal artifact. And it allows them to, twice a year, the possessor can create an altar, where it takes 2d6 days to do the ritual, and another 1d6 days for the altar to manifest, and it appears semi-corporeal. The altar does, and then you can also summon Anthraxis using the altar. And
cool.
Then also you have further tokens. If it is fed up to 300 slain levels, Anthraxis will gladly inform his servant about the ritual to summon vulture demons by taking feathers from the claw, which regrow at a rate of 1 per day as long as Anthraxis remains upon the summoner's plane. These can be placed on a slab of stone.
Wow.
The stone's surface must be divided into quadrants by blood, and a single feather placed within each quadrant. For every 30 slain levels, 10 Type 1 demons will appear, burning a feather in the process.
That's awesome.
And then also you have a teleportation link to the main altar. So yeah, basically you can, if you're being attacked, you can teleport yourself to the altar. And if you have sufficient time, you can then perform. If Anthraxis has shown you, you can then just start summoning 10 type 1 demons, like Vrox, burning a feather in the quadrant. It's like for each quadrant. So yeah, you wind up basically being able to really unleash some damage by proxy.
Malin, I think it is the Oino demon Anthraxis. I just think that Rob takes a lot of liberty because they're daemons, AE, and they're summoning type 1s. I think he's taking a lot of liberties here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Yeah. But liberties are taken here.
Well, I think also, if I'm not mistaken, there's a point with in Anthraxis's backstory, because remember he was cast out, blah blah blah. But at any rate, there's a what am I trying to say here? I think that at one point he was described as wandering the fiendish plains. So
right, I think I always thought that the daemons could summon either devils or demons. I thought they could, because they were like in between, like what's his name, Charon, right?
Yeah,
it's one of them too. So according to the Monster Manual 2, so.
Yeah, and I think one of the Demonomicons has him as chaotic evil. So maybe after he kind of lost his domain, he kind of shifted. But regardless, that's later lore, so it wouldn't be Kuntz. But regardless, I think it's just such a cool idea of burning the feathers and summoning these things.
So a demonic dark druid, it would be a long-term plot line in order to take over a huge swath of area, is to get as many, with slain creatures, as many demons as you can summoned. That's
yep. So
yeah, that's great.
You're going on a pretty massive killing spree to
yep,
carry that out, and of course, just the idea of being able to summon Anthraxis as well.
Yeah, that would scare almost any party. That would. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool artifact. Like I said, there's another artifact pertaining to the elemental planes in that adventure.
And you're looking at 16th level druid at that point. So you're looking at high level adventuring in this adventure at that point. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Tarrasques and demons and elementals.
Yep.
Good one.
So, at any rate, that's one of my other personal favorites, because I love when we were talking about atmosphere and use of an artifact, just the thing about sacrifice victims and blood and summoning the Vrox. But he'll only give the information to his most trusted servants, right?
Yeah.
There's something so creepy about that.
And once again, this is outside of the normal what's in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So that's why I'm trying to show a lot myself that are in the Dungeon Master's Guide, going outside of it too. Just to give you some. There's options beyond just those, but they're great as well. But let's spread it out. And they're all Greyhawk based. You know, because this was written for, you know, Rob's not writing for Forgotten Realms. So,
Yeah.
yep. Awesome. Anna.
Okay, we've talked about items that have been more or less seen as treasure, something you can use like swords and rings and stuff. But there is a whole class of artifacts that doesn't really cut it in the form of personal treasure, things that are too big. The Qualish thing is maybe cut into that, and Machine of the Loom the Man and stuff. But there's a couple of others that I think are really important. One is so tied into the Greyhawk setting, we don't even think of it often, and that's the Malachite
Throne.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one. And Mike had a article on Greyhawkery in 2014 when he mentioned it a little bit. That I think it's
It's not in here.
it's kind of cool. I don't think the detailed is it detailed? I don't think it is in any of the DMGs or anything that way.
I don't know.
But I think it's a really cool, powerful artifact in its own right, so to speak. And the benefits of having a thing like that, because it can't really be used by the characters, so you can really give it some enormous powers because it can only be used then and there. You either have to move it, or it might be things that are tied to the place. I'm thinking of doing the Malachite throne as the whole throne room being a pocket dimension, so to speak. So when you step into it, you're under the spell and the power of whoever sits in the throne. And yep.
Many Malachite.
There you go. Scary. Yep. So that is one item that I think is really cool, and you can really make them a pocket apocalypse or apocalyptic in themselves in that area. That they give them immense powers locally, so to speak, maybe in the room or the palace or within sight or something like that.
Gary says there are many Malachite thrones. The nail is crafted with this powerful one. Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yep. So it can be, and there actually is and damn, Gary, you were ahead of me.
Oh!
Because there is a Malachite was something that was I see it in my campaign as very fashionable back in the day, so to speak, because it was the symbol material of the Great Kingdom. So what they did was that they took Malachite to other parts, and Critwall was one of these areas that was very, that when they built it, the Great Kingdom, they wanted to tie back to Rossi's and their heritage back east, so to speak, to show that it was part of an imperial city. So they took some Malachite from the throne room, and similar ones, and they put it on. First, they put some of it on the outside of the tower of the keep at the top of the hill next to the shield reclaimed, and they put it outside, and it's a blackened Malachite. So when I have it that Ivid's curse and his pact with the devil made it dark, so to speak, so it became black Malachite. But they also made it into a throne in order to, as a small replica of the original one that the regional the provincial rulers could actually use. And that one also was cursed that way. So now what they've done is that they've actually taken the Malachite material that was outside the wall, and that's outside the tower in the keep. That is why there is a black symbol on the shieldland's shield on the heraldry. That came. Yeah, this is my take on it, so to speak. But what they did when they realized that the Ivids, the Overkings, were cursed and stuff, they took down all the Malachite. They put it on the floor in the ballroom so they can step on it. And one of the thing you're supposed to do is that before you step in on the Malachite, you're supposed to spit on it, and then you walk on it as a way of showing you that you don't like the Overking and his politics, so to speak. So it's a way of doing it. So you honor it, but you also disgrace it. So that's part of my campaign. that have taken it that way.
Nice.
But there's also another throne, I think, that is that is inferred to, that should be an artifact, I think, but it hasn't been described as an artifact. And that's the throne of Ius, the bone throne of Ius, that is made up of bones of slain paladins. And I think that one deserves to be an artifact in its own right, so to speak.
So
And
if your
then,
bones are added to his throne, that's an honor, right?
yeah, well, in a way, it could be, yeah, you can twist it that way. Yeah, that was a really cool way of thinking of it. So yeah, you can do it. And I also have one other artifact that is even more kind of big and bulky, and you can definitely not carry it around in my campaign. And I'm thinking about it right now because the sun is up, and it's only 3 something in the morning here. So that's how close to the polar circle we're up here. So it's, yeah, the sun is getting up at 3 something in the morning almost. But the ceiling or the roof dome of the Shield Reclaim, the big cathedral on top of the wall, is an artifact that is that can project the daylight in the whole area, so to speak. So that means that you can see demons and fiends and stuff like that, and it will take away, diminish some of their powers, and it will give the vision powers and stuff like that, visibility and stuff, to paladins and good ones. So it's very powerful, but locally. Yeah.
And it's talking about in Bastion of Faith, which he's getting more and more to love, I see. And that is this, on the top of this, right?
Yeah.
And if you wanted to foreshadow that, there's of course the Throne of Ayu's adventure in Dragon 118, where those orcs are attempting to make a new throne for Ayus, and it's killing all the plant life around.
Absolutely.
Like they're using bones, I believe, from an elven burial ground that they've desecrated.
Yep. I ran that too.
There's also,
that's a good one.
Oh,
okay then.
Yep. And it's also, there is also talks, I think it's in Ayus the Evil, that there is a necropolis in the area somewhere that is full of old bones that I have as a flan graveyard, so to speak. They simply put the bones down in a deep hole. That is also part of my campaign, and that's kind of an artifact in its own right, so to speak.
Malden says Vagbaragu is the largest artifact of all. That's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good one. Really cool. All right, we'll do. Anna did a couple there, so we'll do Mike. I'll pass. We'll do Mike and then Les, and then we'll probably get to around stop point and shout outs at that point. So, Mike, what do we got here?
That's the biggest artifact. That's an interesting thought. No, I'm gonna go smaller though. Much smaller. Another item that I've never used that I've been quite taken with on this when researching this topic is the Johiti's mask.
Oh yes.
Oh, nice.
So you got another what I would consider a low-level artifact.
Absolutely.
That could potentially be used by any class as well. And never mind the powers of it, but it's an item that if it's in the hands of the villain, that would make it even more extremely contentious. And it's kind of like the movie The Mask. I can see this is something that could change hands quite frequently. You're talking about histories of artifacts. This is one that would be the list of people who've had it can go way back.
Yeah, so it's only like 6 lines in the original Dungeon Master's Guide. Let me check in the Book of Artifacts and see if it's got any more detail on it.
It got a whole page there. It's
got a whole page in the Book of Artifacts. Okay. J comes. There it is. Okay. Yeah, and once again, it says in the borders of the 7 kingdoms. So they kind of neutralized where this came from. So, yep. Mask. The mask must be eaten by a mimic. It must be worn by one with no mind. It must be merged with its reflection. Oh, that's interesting.
I love the mimic, that it should be eaten by a mimic.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
And I love the
Yeah.
merged with its reflection. That's just
Yeah,
such an
that's
almost
yes.
archetypal or mythic kind of
Yeah.
image.
yeah,
Mhm.
but yeah, I especially like that one too. So I was trying to think to myself, what would be the coolest way to introduce this item to a campaign? And based on its powers
Mhm.
of illusion and the immunity to gaze, and that is to put it in the hands of a Medusa.
Oh,
That would be just the most ridiculously badass thing, I think, because then the
Mhm.
Medusa could go out. The Medusa's not going to be affected by their own gaze.
Interesting concept.
Yeah.
That's a really good
Love it.
concept.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so
Interesting. I'm writing that down,
that's
Mike.
yeah, I know that's in the back of my head to use in a campaign someday. And I like that it's something that would be good for thieves, especially. So if you're running maybe an urban campaign or a rogue campaign, this would be an item that would be highly desirable to have.
Yeah. The only thing I can see as a negative is the curse may make that Medusa now think that it's something else, right? If it's with impersonation. Could,
Yeah, if you impersonate someone too much, then
yeah,
right,
yeah,
right,
yeah,
right. But that could be an even
Interesting
more
in
tragic
itself.
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, hey, we finally defeated the the evil countess, and then oh, you did the Scooby Doo reveal. Oh, it's a Medusa. Now we're stuck.
That's wrong, man.
Yep.
You,
Mhm.
you're really coming up with some devious things. So, yeah, very cool. Very good one, Mike. Les, what do you got for us here to kind of round things out?
Okay. I have. Let me just pull this up right quick.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure you have. I'm not sure if you have anything on that, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with the Mason Talisman of Crevel and the Helm and Wand of Linarden the Spinner.
I have none of that.
Ooh.
Okay, so let's hear.
Page 63 of Ivid the Undying.
David,
Okay,
The
yes,
these
twins,
were in Dragon.
yes.
the twins that,
Okay.
and in Dragon Magazine and Carl Sargent's stuff. Yeah, about the Twin Cities.
Uh,
So
what? That's just the cover.
you've got an Animus priest in charge of Linlaru, Delgoth, and you have a mage prince, Lacaster, in Winetha, right?
What page was that again, Les?
That's starts on page 62,
Got
the
it.
setup.
Thank you very much.
And then it goes on, and I'll just go ahead and quote here, or give you some idea. Uh, you have the Mace of and Talisman of Crevel, an evil priest of great might, and the Helm and Wand of Linarden the Spinner, a mage of equal powers to Crevel. The component parts of these artifacts are useful, but if the two parts of each are combined, they gain enormously in power. These artifacts have long been divided among the houses of Garisteth and Torquin, and currently Delglath has the Mason Helm and Lacaster has the Talisman and Wand. Obviously, each desires the other half of the artifact he prizes so much.
Oh, that's cool.
They've refrained from fighting each other because on the one hand you have an animus and on the other hand you have a powerful mage,
Right.
and it could obviously go wrong. So there's this kind of standing cold war between them, while each wants the artifacts that the other has. And yet here's the other twist is that Mordenkainen, and I believe this comes up in the Dragon Magazine version of this material. Mordenkainen believes that if the artifacts are actually united, it would actually cause this mass explosion or something like that. So they believe that basically if you combine it, you'll become so powerful. But Mordenkainen and others are convinced that if they do it, it will just basically wipe out the neighborhood.
Resonating powers.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So I kind of like that, and I think that ties into what Anna was saying about like local apocalypses, or
Mhm.
so that came to mind almost immediately when you mentioned that, because I was like, yeah, because I've always loved that idea too, right? Of
Mutually
two
assured destruction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I think to some extent is a recurring motif in portions of the Flat S. So yeah. So there's mine.
Josh, it would be a lot of loss. Like Dale would be upset. He's the Ibid people. That's so. Thanks, Patrick, for doing that. Wow, I never even heard of that because I never read in depth that far on because I don't use the side of the map because I just don't. But cool, that is neat. So has anyone? My guess is no, but has anyone ever played out any parts of this in their game?
Not yet.
Okay. ...
That's a kind of hint.
Yeah. That's
I
cool.
used Prince Lacaster,
Okay.
but I don't think I went into the whole artifact thing. I went in a totally different direction. I had him ally with Rary because I was trying to figure out a way like how Rary the trigger could actually do something villainous enough to affect the whole world, and that forced me to have him ally with a like-minded archmage in other parts of the planets. But that's a totally different topic.
Yeah, we never made it that far north in my Reldevin campaign, but it was out there on the radar, so to speak, of a possibility, but they never made it up there.
Well, my guess is because we got through only like 4 or 5 rounds that we have a ton more that we can go over. We can do a part 2 of this in the near future.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In the
Episode
meantime,
50.
Yeah.
Sorry, Les. Episode 50,
yeah.
we covered everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
This was intentionally going to be a small sample.
Yep.
This was more. I agree with you, Mike. It was more of a take on here are some of the artifacts, and here's how you can use them. Here's how we've used them. Here's ways that you can weave the lore of them into your own campaign. Yeah, the first was basically an overview. This was more the utility, if you will, in campaigns and for dungeon masters and players. I hope.
Yeah.
I hope we succeeded in this.
Oh yeah, we did. We did a lot of really cool and fun discussions here tonight.
And we got to introduce the Rob Kuntz ones to the discussion.
Well, yeah,
that's
absolutely.
New. That's new.
That was a good one.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's so new. But it's really good stuff. And if we do have him on again, just no one can mention the Big B's and Gnome now because his eyes would pop out of his head. But I'm kidding. Actually, I'm not. But we'd have to tell hey Rob, everyone's using your Dark Druids now. I think he'd be happy about that. I'm glad that they made it available for publication too.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Out again once again.
Also, I know we're getting close to the end here, but since Malden's in attendance, I had to throw out that at the beginning of this, probably before Malden came on, Les mentioned Raiders of the Lost Ark, my favorite movie, the best example of an artifact there is, and Malden likes the Codex of the Infinite Planes.
Yep.
To me, how I've always handled that Codex is like the Ark of the Covenant. This is a
Nice.
thing where you acquire it, you use it, and then you rebury it. You gotta get rid of it. So that's all I was going to say. It's the Ark.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's so nasty. Well, let's see what everyone's got going on here as we get up to time here. Sorry, hey Mike, what's going on, man? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with no Legends of Lore next week? Anna's in Sweden. I'll be in Florida. Yeah, what's going on, Mike?
No
games.
I got no posts. I got the usual games. For the week, Witch's game.
When's Gen Con for you? When is Gen Con?
Gen Con's like August.
Oh, it's still August. Okay, it's not in July. Okay.
Yeah, so I did see that they made an announcement, like an email going around on GaryCon. Like the badges are already on sale in July. Is that right?
I think it is.
So got that to look forward to. I was at work today and I almost tried to do a write-up on a new artifact for the blog, but I just got too busy. But my idea, maybe if I get around to doing it, my idea is to do a relic of Vatoon, something tied to Vatoon,
Nice.
Cool.
to
Nice.
add to that lore. So we'll see if I ever do it.
Gabriel, I have eyeglasses, by the way, in Greyhawk. They allow you to inscribe scrolls and read scrolls and stuff like that. Yeah, Arcanist eyeglasses. They're pretty, it's pretty cool. So, but yeah, Mike. All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming up with this topic idea. And I
Yeah.
know we'll do a part 2 down the road too.
Oh,
Oh
for sure.
yes.
Yeah, definitely. So, and this was a really good overall topic, and we got some and just use this as for your own game. Think about some of the stuff we talked about. Stealing, it's not stealing. We're bringing up ideas for you all to jump on. So, I know it's almost 4 o'clock in the morning there. So, what's
Yeah.
up? That's
Well, it's
wow.
kind of nice to be up and
And the
see
sun's
two and a
coming
half
up.
hour sunrises and at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh
It's
my
kind
gosh.
of that was it's kind of awesome. It almost feels exotic now, but I get a chance to sit and write some stuff. The latest blog post I put up for my patrons will be available for everybody next week. I took sketched out and took a look at the traditional round or ringed settlements of Shieldlands. That was me trying to dig into culture, architecture, and settlement building, and kind of took a look at that because that was part of my campaign. So there will be more follow up on that, follow up on the stuff where I will detail more in stuff. The problem is that I have to work on my laptop, so I'm a little bit constrained power-wise, so I can't use the really big Photoshop files and World Machine and all of that stuff. So it would be more writing stuff, easy light sketching, and some more heraldry and stuff. So there's definitely more posts. I hope that I can have one up at least once every week or so.
Cool.
So yeah. So I'm definitely not. I'm still doing a lot of writing and thinking about things and stuff here. So it's part of vacation too. So, and I have my laptop with me, so no problem. So and I'll try to stay in touch on Discord
Yeah.
and all that stuff too. So yeah. It's
So,
just that I have to get up 2 o'clock in the morning, but that's part of the fun.
and lastly, Les, thanks for coming on again. What do you got going? What do you got going on?
Yeah.
Good
A
times.
couple of things. First, I'm going to give a plug and a shout out to Wiley Hobbit and Matthew's show, the Greycast, the podcast, Greyhawk podcast.
Yep.
In early July, I'll be doing. It's going to be an introductory kind of overview discussion of a series that I'm starting on their podcast.
Oh, awesome.
This will be this is sort of my formal announcement of it, and teasing everybody that they need to get on board early. What we're doing is I'm going to be taking. This is just the overview, the first episode, but I'm going to be taking some of the lesser known figures on Appendix N. Not your Robert E. Howard, not your Tolkien, but some figures like C.L. Moore and Lee Brackett and Margaret St. Clair and Sterling Lanier. And I'm going to be taking you through, give you an overview of their career and other things they did. Here's a little tease. One of the Appendix N authors wrote episodes of Maverick, the James Garner Western.
No way.
Way.
That's cool.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of their career and lives. Then go into how their specific works, like a couple of short stories or maybe a novel, and then how that work influenced Greyhawk and influenced the development of early D&D. So it's going to be kind of broadly focused on. Whereas other podcasts and other discussions of Appendix N tend to be fairly broadly focused on the person or narrowly focused on the career, I really want to do a deep dive into how these things worked in the early campaigns and what DMs can still pillage from them, what you can find material-wise where you can either subvert it or play with it. But these are, foundational texts when it comes to establishing tropes of the hobby that we're all so in love with. And I want to look at, the good and the bad and how you can use that and how you can subvert it, and some of the recurring themes that you find across the authors. I think that Gygax had his definite interests. So yeah, that's going to be what I'm going to be doing there. Also, I've got some pieces for that I'm working on for both the new Greyhawk zine and for the Oath Journal. Little tease about one. It is a morally instructive story dating back to the Sewell Imperium about what happens when you try stepping out of line and expect too much and try to rise above your station. And it survives in its present form as both an instructive tale in the Scarlet Brotherhood's territory, as well as something that the few remaining Sewell families tell their children so that their children behave and honor their parents.
I think Lord Breslin should star in that because he always goes above his level. But yes, there you go. That's awesome, Les. That's a great story. Use levitate. That's funny, Dale. Yeah, I immediately thought of Rich when you. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Really cool stuff. I'm looking forward to the Greycast. That's fantastic.
Mhm.
So, when's the first one? When's the initial one?
I believe first week of July is going to be my introductory overview one, and then they're going to record a couple of things. Like I said, I'm planning to do one of these every month or 2 months, I hope. But every so often, as they need me, and I might do more if there's some gaps that they need filled. But yeah, we're going to be looking at Andre Norton and some of the influences on Hardby, even perhaps. So
very cool.
Yeah, it'll be a fun time, I think.
Excellent.
And yes, Goblin of Gygax Nor. Brackett did write an early draft of The Empire Strikes Back. She also co-wrote with William Faulkner. She co-wrote the screenplays for The Big Sleep and Rio Bravo and Have and Have Not.
Rio Bravo, really? That's something I know.
That's a wildly different set of.
Rio Bravo's Ricky Nelson.
Yep, My Rifle, My Pony, and Me.
Yeah.
Dean Martin singing along.
Too. Yep, absolutely. Wow, very cool. So, everyone, I got one more stream, and I'm going till a week from Sunday. So, tomorrow night we finish Corrupted of the Gnarly. They are surmising it's a dark druid that worships Zugtamoy that's causing these troubles and creating all these mutated fungal infected bugbears. And you're going to see some other creatures tomorrow night. And it's Gamescape 3D giveaway. And that'll be the last stream for a little over a week as I go on a family vacation. The only other thing that's coming up that's definite, well, it's 90%, and that is on July 1st, Saturday morning. It's going to be now. It's going to be a 9 a.m. game. I'm going to run an Overgord game.
Yay!
Because Mike has requested it. Because Zambies, who's our Twitch partner, she has never played in a campaign. But we'll bring back some of the regulars here: Bird, Heather, Rob, Phantom, Mike Disney, and Tempest back into that game. They're all invited. So I think I have 100% confirmation. But I'll be working on that. I can work on that via Discord when I'm on vacation. But that's the only thing that I have scheduled now because my brain's going to go in shut off mode for a bit here, which
it's a good thing.
Yeah. Praise the kumquats. You're right. Chuck finally speaks tonight. Praise the kumquats. Yes, yeah.
Hello.
So let's do the giveaway. You get your choice here of a wonderful reprint. Let's see. Dark Clouds Gather against the Giants. I have Ravenloft. I have. I did get some more in, Patrick. I still have a Tomb of the Lizard King. I have Palace of Silver Princess. I have a Treasures. You get your choice. Okay. So let's see. We'll close this out. See who wins, and then I gotta figure out what I'm gonna raid into. All right, here we go. Hit the right button, dummy. There we go. All right, you guys got in. Closing out the entries. The winner tonight is Barry.
Yeah, boy.
There you go.
Congratulations.
Yes, Barry Birmingham. I should have your name and address. So, how's you got any of those I said that you're interested in? If you don't have Treasures, I always recommend getting it. It's like such a great publication, and it's got like a dozen adventures in it with all wonderful things, all Greyhawk based. That's what I always recommend if you don't have it. But if not, I have it Against the Giants, which is awesome as well. That would be another good one. I have a Cult of the Reptile God. I have. And I still have a Tomb of the Lizard King, which we ran for our 1000th. You just tell me if any of those interest you. If not, we'll work it out. And just make sure I have your full name and address. I should have it in my USPS log, but if I don't, we'll get together on that. So other than that, well, thank you. What a great show.
Yeah, a great time. Thanks for having me on.
Yep.
Thank you, and I'm glad that your power came back on in time. Definitely. And Anna, get some sleep.
Yeah, really.
Oh yeah, I have 4 hours of sleep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Pull the curtains closed.
Oh yeah, I have to because now it's almost full daylight. So yep.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Mike, thanks for the great topic idea. You don't need one for next week, so we're looking at the week from next. So yes. Gosh, I should have looked earlier and done this, but wow. Who am I going to go into this time? Let me see. 20 Sides is on. Guild Superior is on. I'll do one of those too. All right, so Barry, let me just make a suggestion. Get Treasures, because it has multiple adventures in it of all different levels. Trust me. If you don't have that, that's what I get. It's your best bet on those. So, yes. Barry,
I second it. Second the recommendation.
Thank you very much. And Barry, just make sure I have your full name. I'm assuming that's your name, but full name and address. Just whisper it to me. I probably have it, but just to play it safe, make it easy. I'll get it right out tomorrow before, definitely. All right, everyone. See you all tomorrow night. It'll be last stream until a week from Sunday, and we'll have some good giveaways: 1 Reaper and 2 Gamescape. Have some fun with this adventure, and then we'll see you all. See you all then. Everyone have a good one. Let me see if I can hit the right button here. So, all righty. Set the raid up. Raid.
Tell Patrick that on Saturday might be some party. So yep. I'm going to see some old classmates and stuff.
That's cool. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Everyone have a good one. See you tomorrow night.
Bye.
There we go.
Bye.
All right.
We're running a Witcher game. Interesting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it seems to have popped over.